Hey everybody, Chad Parsons here, and something I've been talking about for quite a while, or at least a few weeks. My own little circle here, and with some UTH VIPs is that should go through the exercise of how to send a bunch of offers. When Chad says you send 10, 15, 20 offers, what does that look like? So I figured out this is probably the best method. I'll have an audio version as well for folks that are auditory inclined. Don't need to see it. I'm a visual person, so I think the visual will help quite a bit. You might have to blow up the screen here. Hopefully it's not too long. I'll go through here pretty rapid fire, but I picked a pretty stock format and I'm going to actually do it. I picked a league where I have a deep enough roster and one that they haven't had the rookie draft in 2019. So that should open up some avenues and conversations just because we have a later rookie draft than typical. And I already picked a couple players on this roster that we're going to go through it with. I've chosen, and this is a deep roster, stock PPR, but you can start, the lineups are pretty deep. You can start 5 or 6 wide receivers. I'm pretty deep at wide receiver, and that's along with a couple running backs. And tight end, I'm pretty deep as well, losing Rob Gronkowski to free agency, retirement, the ultimate NFL free agency, which is retirement. But I still have Eric Ebron, Evan Ingram, upside guys in Vance McDonald, Chris Herndon. It's pretty viable sometimes to start a second tight end with the flex in this format. I've got 103, 110, a couple firsts next year. So got plenty to work with and potentially give trade ideas here. So I'm going to talk through it for folks listening to it. But if you are watching, you should get to see it right here in action. So the goal is going to be to send 1, 2, 3 offers to every team in the league. So that's 11 times that number. So we should be in the 20s, if not a little higher, ideally, by the end of this show. Rapid fire sense here. So Alshon Jeffrey and Eric Ebron, the reasons I'm pessimistic, Alshon Jeffrey's a few years removed from his best season or peak years. I think the Eagles and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside kind of drafted a guy that can replace him. Jeffrey is someone I don't think is going to age all that well over the next 2 to 3 years, but he still has some name cachet. I've seen as high as, say, 107-ish for the 2019 rookie class. You can get as a return, but sometimes sagging into the second round. Eric Ebron, not quite as much of a peak in terms of the trading market. He is going to be one that probably something in the early second round range, or a future second and a player, those types. And I've been outlining a lot of my trades and where I'm successful, and selling players, especially when I get multiple pieces back, is where I do a really good job with a high rate of return. Don't lose a lot of those trades, and there's some good upside there. So goal is going to be to send offers around Alshon Jeffrey and Eric Ebron, but it's about the toolbox. It's about translating this to your own league and about giving you ideas on what parallel offers or similar deals mean when you send those out, and how you can make that work in your favor. So starting, I already have it pulled up here. The first team, they are competitive as well. They actually won the league last year. I got 3rd place. So I've won this league multiple times, if not more, over its existence over, I want to say 5, 6, 7 seasons. So I'm a Studley team, but this is also another strong one. First thing is I'm going to glance through, see how strong the team is. What can I project for if I am looking to acquire a future pick? And then the other part will be, what kind of target players do I see or packages? So again, with Alshon Jeffrey, is a first possible? I think it is. So I'm going to offer Alshon Jeffrey for a 21st straight up. This is a stronger team. It would be in the later part of the round. So again, you got to get comfortable just clicking propose. All right, so let's get back into it again. And you're going to go the same team until you've exhausted your options. So we've got Alshon Jeffrey for a first. What else can we find? T.Y. Hilton, he's someone of interest. Now, obviously, I'd have to go Jeffrey plus. I don't even think Jeffrey plus Ebron would get him. So I'm kind of looking in, again, the mid-round range for startup drafts. And more than anything, I like to shift down from perceived name value, which I have 2 guys that have some perceived name value. I would rather shift down, get picks, get a bigger package so that it can help me out because I trust myself drafting and doing well. A guy of interest here is Jalen Samuels, but he has James Conner. So that's probably not a good fit because with the handcuff situation already in play, likely he's going to have a higher value on Samuels than someone that has, doesn't have 2 parts of the Steelers backfield there. So I don't see a lot of natural fits. Again, Sammy Watkins would cost more. They could use Eric Ebron because they have Travis Kelce, Jordan Reed, who's always a question mark. And that's about it. So for Ebron, he could be a flex for this team there. They're not super deep or super top heavy at wide receiver, better at running back than wide receiver. So Ebron, does it get a later second? That's not really enough for me. 212 this year. You got to translate that into players. Who would I be looking at? You're probably looking at Justice Hill, Bryce Love type. Ebron's worth more than that. So you got to find a good fit. And Ebron for, say, Jordan Reed and a late second, that doesn't really move the needle for me. Other running backs that I could possibly consider, handcuff types. Again, you don't want to value them too highly, but Carlos Hyde is pretty interesting as someone that neither one of us have Damian Williams. But let's try to make a package here for the sake of the exercise of something that I would do. So say Hyde, and again, once Hyde or if Hyde gets that lead job for a moment in time, he would be an auto starter in this format, considering the depth of the lineups. So if we go Ebron for Hyde, and let's say Hyde is a mid-second sort of equivalency. So if we go Hyde, we could possibly upgrade from picks. Actually, now that I see it, Ebron for Hyde, and then a 2020 first, and then I'll throw in my 2020 second, because that's supposed to be late as well. That would give me 3 firsts next year. But Hyde is a good just add on there. But that's a sneaky way, I think, to get another first rounder next year. And again, they're a pretty strong team. That's probably going to be back half of the round. But now we've sent 2 offers, one with Jeffrey, one with Ebron. I didn't see a whole lot else. So let's go to the next team here for time management's sake. This team has Patrick Mahomes. They are pretty lacking at running back overall. I mean, their top guy is it Aaron Jones and not much else. Wide receiver, they got a bunch of guys. So this is a pretty bad team. They got 101 or 103, it looks like, by the picks. But they earned that. I actually think it was 103 because I got their first from them. But they have their future first. I've knocked on their door before about the future first right here, that not likely to give it up. Even if I were to add a first round pick next year, that's probably not going to do it. So really, they're looking for picks. I mean, they've got some 3 seconds this year. They've got 101. Is it worth moving up from 103 to 101? Not really, because I'm going to be looking to move down from there. Could I move down from 110 to 203, 206? Absolutely. That's probably something I'm going to do on the clock, though, or close to it. If I had to guess, then we're looking at players and what players have interest. Patrick Mahomes, I don't really like playing the full sticker here. Running backs, Matt Breida, I like. Elijah McGuire, I like a little bit, but they're not really Jamal Williams. But again, he has Aaron Jones. Just talking through this with different players and environments here. Wide receivers, Dante Pettis, Kenny Galladay, they're not on my list. Who else? That's about it. George Kittle, not paying full sticker. Tyler Eifert. This one's going to be a tough one. All right, so let's try this, though. So again, Eric Ebron, I mentioned, a first might be possible. But again, this team is probably not going to be one that's going to be looking to acquire either guy. But I'm going to do my best, again, for the sake of trying to find similar deals. So we have Eric Ebron. 203 could be in the Damian Harris, but no matter what, there's going to be a nice running back play there. So let's try 203 and 210 for Eric Ebron. Again, I think that's fair, but I'm resetting it. I'm not a big fan of Ebron. Have tight end depth, and this would give me just more leverage to build out my running back core, which isn't quite the level I'm used to with some of these guys I've been stashing, and it's time to move on and cut some of them for greener running back rookie pastures here. So 203 and 210, I think that's perfectly fair for Eric Ebron. Again, they're probably not looking to acquire Ebron, but for the sake of what I actually found pretty instructive in doing this is going through and really trying to find these similar offers. But what if, I've only sent 3 or 4 out, and what if one of these is accepted? It would kind of, I guess, end the show because I would have already sold. I guess I could just continue on with the other player. But so we sent that one for Eric Ebron. Now Alshon Jeffrey let's see if we go back and see a fit there. That again, looks like they like wide receiver with the number of ones that they have rostered. I mean, a lot more than I have. Jeffrey, again, could probably garner something. They almost said, that future first is off limits. But again, it's worth trying, a second for a first to a first, and Alshon Jeffrey, and heck, I'd include Eric Ebron as well, because this is probably going to be on the early side of the round, consolidate down. So a second and both of those players for their first to move up there. So now we're up to a couple trades with this team, and you might see, as we go through, that some of the trades have already been It'll be interesting if I get a counter and we're actually negotiating through this podcast and through this screen sharing hangout. So I think that pretty much exhausted it. I didn't see a lot of ancillary pieces. Let's go to the next one. We'll probably find more interest along the way. And again, you're just getting different ideas on how to navigate different types of rosters with what they have. This one, just eyeballing it, they've got Kareem Hunt, Kerryon Johnson at running back, Lamar Miller, who may be of interest for me to pick somebody up, Rashad Penny as well. They've got some potential good targets here. AJ Green, I think he's a little bit of a buy low, but I'm not sure I'm offering anything high enough to maybe get Green. Let's see, they've got Cortland Sutton, Stephon Diggs, and then tight end, they've got Trey Burton and Adam Shaheen, but not a lot else. So Ebron might be actually a good choice here. That they have their full complement of picks. They have 2 seconds this year, no first. But if we go Ebron, again, the other one I sent 202, 208. I think that's pretty reasonable. For them getting a guy that outpaced by far anybody that they had last year. Now, should I throw in 310? So you have to kind of say, is that a counter situation that you would add on? I'm probably going to add it on right here just because that would give me, again, 2 picks right in the hot zone that I'm looking for there. And 310, it would make my roster. But again, I'm not going to let that stop me from the deal. So we'll get Ebron in there, 2 seconds, and move to 310, move from 310 up to 208. So there we go. We got one offer. Let's get through here to... so this is the 3rd team out of 11. So strap in, people. This is going to be long form. So we got Ebron, and what else could we do? I'm not really looking to get a tight end back per se, but Ebron for someone like a Rashad Penny or Lamar Miller. I actually think maybe Lamar Miller plus might be the way to go here. I didn't see a lot of handcuff situations they had above, but if we go Lamar Miller for Ebron, and how about a future second? And actually, again, it's pretty marginal, but we'll go 308 to 410. So a little upgrade there. You never know. I could have 2/3 and that could matter. But Lamar Miller has very little cachet. But again, I could plug and play for this year, and I'm not going to view Eric Ebron much into the future either in terms of what's his prognostication. Let's get back into it. Obviously, as you're seeing, some of these have already been probably, not countered because obviously they would come up here. Let's see. How about to get Rashad Penny? I think it's going to take a bigger deal. So if we put Ebron and Jeffrey together and go for Penny, and is there another player? I didn't really see one on first glance that would be applicable. But let's see. Jeffrey, Ebron for Penny, and 202 strikes me as about even in terms of valuation there. And again, I always like to just tack on a little bit more there, 4th to a 3rd. And not having a 3rd next year, makes it a little tougher. We can go 4th to a 3rd, just spitballing here if needed. But there we go. So that one's for Penny and 202, and then getting the 4th to 3rd upgrade. So Penny's one of my target players here. As I mentioned, they got plenty of players that could be of interest. It's finding the right fit for value, because again, I think it's important for people to know that. So what's the function? What's the goal of this? It's selling a specific player. So you should be a little bit flexible, again, not on the raw value of the deal, but on, what types you're willing to accept, because you're trying to exit stage right. So for Jeffrey, AJ Green, does Ebron and Jeffrey get to AJ Green? I would say probably not, but I think it's worthwhile knocking on that door. So getting AJ Green, and do I have to throw in something else? Could I maybe throw in a handcuff that they would value? Let's see. I don't see any offhand that they have. Yeah, I think I'm kind of stuck in terms of just making that as an offer. I think it's a little low, but I'm not going to say, again, addressing 2 positions, and depending on how you feel about Alshon Jeffrey, I really hate to assume that we know how other people are going to. So that's 4 offers, including one or both. I actually didn't include any that were Jeffrey alone. So let me see if I can fleece out and separate that to make it for Jeffrey alone. Like I mentioned, a future first I think is fair. So there we go. And how about we throw in 310 from this year and see if we can get a first from Jeffrey from a team that's decent. So we've thrown out 5. This was 5 offers to one team. Again, it depends on how much they have appeal. appealing in terms of players or picks, and that one just was a pretty good match. But I've still sent offers to every single team so far. Royce Freeman's on this next one. They have Marlon Mack, Antonio Brown, Michael Thomas, James Washington. At tight end, they've got a bunch of guys, but you could say Hayden Hurst is the best of them. So Eric Ebron is well in play for this one. They have 107. Not looking to really trade up, but Ebron, 207, and a second next year. I think that's, if anything, that's probably a little low if I had to guess. So maybe I could add on a marginal player. Again, Royce Freeman isn't marginal, but TJ Yeldon, again, he's bouncing around, but worth a lotto ticket. Maybe even, Hayden Hurst, but I'm not really looking to get a tight end back is the thing. So I'm going to go Yeldon in 2 seconds for Eric Ebron. So there you go. That was pretty easy right off the bat there with this new owner, with this new team, all state, as we work through here. See what else we got. So Ebron is a good match. We sent that one out there. And actually, I would do Ebron for Royce Freeman straight up. So let's try that. And now we'll look for Alshon Jeffrey, or if we're going after something bigger, we'll try both of them together. And that's why, if you have multiple players you're selling, sometimes you get the best deal. They might not be interested in one of them in a one-off trade, but yet if you can do all of them or 2 or 3 of them together, you can end up getting something. And you're still technically selling a player, even if you go 3-2 or 3-1 or fill-ins or something like that. Let's see what else we got. So again, now we're looking for Alshon Jeffrey. They have Mike Williams. Again, that's typically on wide receiver to wide receiver is not a good idea. Let's see what else. So could we go Jeffrey for Royce Freeman and a little something that would be beneficial? 207. We could do that. And actually, so here's a parallel offer. So going Jeffrey for Freeman and 207, but then maybe people wouldn't be looking at it this way. Maybe this is obvious. But again, trying to over communicate as we go through this process. How about this will go Jeffrey for Royce Freeman, and we did 207 a second ago. Well, let's do a 2020 second. Maybe they prefer to give them options. Maybe they'll give up a future pick more than 207 this year after they've been getting all excited for the rookie class there. So we've already sent out 4 to this other team. So that's 9 offers to 2 different teams there. And I didn't really see anything to pair up and send them both for, but we actually should do that no matter what. Because again, cover your bases. You never know what's going to come back. I still have hopes that one of these is actually going to get accepted while the show is going on. Like I said, it would be a feather in the cap of, hey, it works. So if we go Ebron and Jeffrey, again, this is a middle of the road team. They're light at running back. I wonder, so Alshon Jeffrey and Ebron for their first next year. And how about, let's go 310 to 207. I think that's fair. You're getting 2 players in a deep lineup league that you can start. I may be aiming slightly high for my own admission. So there we go. 5 offers to that team. Now the next one, this one is not very good. So we'll see if we can find some player fits or just pick fits. They did get Saquon Barkley, not much else. Damian Williams at running back. And then Corey Davis, Chris Godwin, let's see, Jared Cook, OJ Howard. So probably going to be good at tight end and not be looking in that direction. But wide receiver is a known weakness. I'd be interested, Corey Davis. I wonder if we could go Alshon Jeffrey and Eric Ebron for Corey Davis with Davis having minimal cachet right now. Falling down just by perception and AJ Brown going there. So we started out with that one. Let's go to another one. We're only about halfway done with this show. I really, for somehow, I thought I was going to be able to do this in 10 minutes, but talking through it, it's a lot slower, explaining what I'm doing for the audio only, but also talking through if all the scrolling is boggling your eyes here on the screen share. All right, so we sent that, just to reiterate, we sent Corey Davis, get Corey Davis for Jeffrey and Ebron. Now, what else could we do here? Running backs, they don't have much. They have Malcolm Brown, but that's a complete add-on type. So we're looking at picks. All right, so we know the options. They finished second to last year. So again, to get their future first, you're probably gonna have to go Jeffrey, Ebron, and we'll try 310. Again, that's something that's probably going to elicit a counter, and maybe they add a player to that in a best case scenario. And if we're going individually, let's see if they had anything else just to double check here. Or if we're going down, see Alshon Jeffrey 2x. Chris Godwin's hot, but I'm not a big fan. Up the classic upside wide receiver. So I think that's about it. 302 would be a pretty big drop for, but actually, what about this? Ebron for 302, a second next year, which should be on the earlier side. Because again, this past year they finished second worst, even with Saquon Barkley. So what does that say? I mean, so an early second next year is going to be pretty valuable. 302, I can use that as leverage. And is there a player or something that I can add on to make this worthwhile? Oh, it's just tough. It is tough. We'll do 302, and then we'll actually do the fourth to the third. I kind of mentioned that a minute ago, how I don't have a third. That could be an early third. So there we go. So they don't have to give up anything too meaningful, but yet they get an established player there. Let's move on to the next one, which is I don't think this team is all that great. I think this is the team that's been rehashing with a lot of young players getting better. They got Kamara, they got McCaffrey in recent years, Latavius Murray. Let's see, Will Fuller, Calvin Ridley, Kenny Stills. He could maybe be a target there. Tight end, they've got Austin Hooper and a bunch of guys, Robert Woods. So let's see here. So Eric Ebron, he could be a help. What about Eric Ebron for 205 and their second? As you know, I've been talking through these trades. That's one I've already sent out a couple times to other teams. Going back in here, this is team 6, I believe. So nothing I like seeing better than when you scroll and you're like, wow, I got 25 offers out there. Not going to do a full count. I'm sure what would be funny is if someone were counting along with how many trades I'm actually sending out, making sure I hit that quota, something in the 20s. I think we're well past the idea that I'm not going to hit 20 or 25 within the scope of this show and an instructional video here. So we already sent out Ebron for 2 seconds. See what else. Will Fuller is a possibility. I wonder if I could go Ebron and Funchess. No, Ebron and Funchess. Ebron and Jeffrey for Fuller and something. How about we go for Fuller and 205? Yep, I am good with that. Move on to the next one. Not next team, but we'll look on, see if there's anything else. That's 2 offers for this team. That's combined. Maybe we should do Alshon Jeffrey alone. We have Ronald Jones. Latavius Murray is kind of interesting. I wonder if I could do Jeffrey for Murray and 205. I'm fine with that as well. They do have Kamara. Before I clicked, I forgot until I pressed submit. Generally handcuffs come. And I don't view Murray as a handcuff, but generally, if you own the starter or 1A of a backfield, you're a little more sticky with that second running back there for the Kamara and Murray pairing for them. Let's see what else. I mentioned Kenny Stills, who I think is a pretty sneaky, it's an up in the air depth chart there. What if we go Jeffrey for Stills plus? So if we go Jeffrey for Stills 205 and 2 seconds. Yeah, I think that's applicable if I give a fourth. So there we go. So Stills in 2 seconds for Alshon Jeffrey. Stills doesn't have a lot of cachet. So that's, again, a sneaky trade where you can win it a lot of different ways. Move on to the next one. I have this team's first next year, I believe, already. And let's see. At running back, I mean, they've got Phillip Lindsay, a lot of Devonta Freeman coming back from injury. Let's see what else. Doug Baldwin retired on them. They have Hopkins. They have Landry. They have Ertz. So again, Luck. I mean, so it's a decent team, but they're not very far away from finishing, and giving a top 3 to 4 pick. That's kind of what I'm hoping on. They finished middle of the pack with 106 this year. And again, I already have their first. So they're probably not interested in Ebron, just the depth they have at tight end. We're going to work on Funchess here with a couple offers. So is there someone I can quote unquote downgrade to? I don't see it at wide receiver. At running back, Devonta Freeman and why did I say Funchess? Jeffrey. Too many player names. Jeffrey and Devonta Freeman, they're probably pretty close in terms of value. I'm not a big buyer on Freeman though, so you really want to have pause with what you're throwing out there player-wise. So let's look at more picks. They don't have their second round pick this year. They have their second next year though, but I'm going to need a little more than that. And they don't have a second this year. what could I get? See, this is a tough one. This is where you're trying to put puzzle pieces together. I could go out to 2021, and actually that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give Jeffrey for a 2020 second, and then we'll go second to first in 2021. So you might be thinking that's pretty light. But again, this is how, as a strong team, this is how you get future first. This is, you look farther out. Sometimes you pay a little bit of a premium to get that poker chip on a team that's middle of the road, but are they spectacular? Absolutely not. And if they're not locked into a top 3 or 4 team, that means things could go sideways, and all of a sudden that could become 103. And Jeffrey might do almost nothing. So I mean, I'm painting a broad brush there, but this is how you take cracks at trying to get that one of those top picks for seemingly nothing when you get there. All right, next team up. A lot of scrolling. See, that's a good thing. It means the offers are still out there and they're live. This is a good team. They have Leonard Fournette, Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook. Wide receivers, they got a bunch of them. Cooper Kupp. Not much at wide receiver, though. Tyler Boyd. So this is going to be an ideal Alshon Jeffrey team. They have 104, 204. I'm going to go for the future first straight up. They didn't finish all that well, but they've got Hunter Henry coming back from injury. Hopefully Fournette gives them. There's reason for optimism there to say that they're going to be a better team this year. But again, you take your shots. With Jeffrey, I don't think you're going to be able to get a future first if you can now for too much longer. Let's see what else. Moving down at wide receiver, again, I didn't really see anything of interest for me. Tight ends, they've got Hunter Henry and not much else. So they're going to be in for Ebron. We'll get to Ebron here in a second. But Jeffrey, is there any running back down the dial? Not really. They don't have that many, which is the key. Again, I haven't mentioned quarterback once. It's a start one. I have Rivers and Baker Mayfield, so I'm just going to kind of be out on that. So we sent Jeffrey for a first. What about, and sometimes you can point them to offers based on how you offer them. If I were to go Jeffrey for 204, and then, do I do it for 2 seconds? I think that's too light, even though I like 204 this year. They have 104, but again, I'm not looking to trade up per se. But I could go 103 down to 104 and maybe get a little bit of boost on the back end of whatever I'm asking, but that's probably better during the draft itself. And 103, again, what if Jacobs and Harry don't go 1-2? Then you might have traded out of a spot that is pretty meaningful. So I'm pretty selective with trading down pre-draft as a ancillary point there. We already tried the future first. So I'm going to shift over to Ebron here. That's all I saw really with Jeffrey. For Ebron, they've got Hunter Henry. That's actually pretty close if you wanted to do that straight up. But again, I'm not looking to get a tight end back per se. Fournette would be a nice acquisition. I don't know. I would have to add to Jeffrey and Ebron to get there, which is the problem. It'd become more of a Fournette buy. So for Ebron, I'm going to try getting the future first, which that's on the high side. So we're going to go 204, and we'll move up from 310, and then we'll get a second next year and move up from the fourth. So try to get 2 seconds there out of Ebron. So that was a little creative twist there at the end. Again, just looking for equivalencies. It's all math equations. Here's a team that's one of the better ones in the league. Let's check out their roster. A little light at quarterback. They've got Le'Veon Bell coming back, Kenyon Drake, but light at running back overall. They got Tyreek Hill, big question mark there. Julio, Christian Kirk, and actually not as good of a team as I thought. They kind of, in my opinion, overachieved last year, finishing with the 109, it looks like. And tight end, they've got Delaney Walker coming back, Jack Doyle. So see, you find Jack Doyle, maybe they have more interest there in Eric Ebron. So not really a defined tight end situation, even though they have a number of bodies. So let's see for Eric Ebron. Can we get, again, I think the couple seconds is fair. 209, I wish it was a little earlier there. Let's see, maybe we could go, 209 and a second next year. And let's see if we can find a player, just a noteworthy, undervalued player potentially to add to that for Eric Ebron. Delaney Walker, actually, I kind of like him if he were coming back. So let's do, I don't know if I need a tight end, though, just talking through this. So let's see. We'll go Sean McCoy, close to done. Kenyon Drake is probably aiming too high, but actually I'll try that in a second here. So we'll go 2 seconds and go 309 from 410. So we'll do 3 different pieces there. We'll kind of piece together the value. And again, this is when you're looking to sell a player, you got to get creative, and don't really want to chance him going into the season per se, with all the regression things at play for Ebron. I mentioned Ebron for Drake, so let's try that. Then what else here? Going to try Jeffrey too. We're finishing up here. We're on the home stretch. Thanks for sticking with me. But again, I think this is something long overdue. I've never seen anyone in Dynasty kind of go through this with such transparency, and that's outlining the trades I make. I mean, nothing more than going into the bat cave here and seeing me send out a bunch of offers. So Ebron, I think we went over him here. I went for Drake. Wide receivers, didn't really see anybody I wanted. So let's go over to Jeffrey. So again, we'll do the classic. We'll do the stock, just future first. They might be looking at it as it's pretty late, but I think there's early possibilities if things go sideways for them. They're not overly deep with their lineup. See if we can find something else for Jeffrey as well. Ask for a little more than Ebron in general. And what about Christian Kirk? I think he's pretty interesting. What if I did Jeffrey and Ebron for Kirk and a little something, something? I think that's going to be interesting. So would we want 209 or would we want a future second? I'll kick the can and give me the second instead of 209. And let's see. Maybe we'll go 309 from 410. So there we go. So I said that really fast, but that was Jeffrey and Ebron. And fourth to third upgrade I'm getting, but Kirk and a future second. I'm a pretty big Kirk fan, but that's basically getting a first out of Ebron and Jeffrey plus a little bit more there. So I like that, and I think we're done with that team. So we got 2 more here. Stick with me. That was 4 offers to the same team, so we're getting the good volume business. No counters so far. Not many declinations, which is good. They're still out there. All right, so this team coming up, we've got they're hurting pretty bad. Cornerstone pieces, I actually don't see any, but they have a lot of potentials. From Giovanni Bernard, Deonta Foreman. Just glancing at it now, wide receivers, not really. They got Graham and not much at tight end. They had the 101 this year it looks like, but they traded that away. So they've got 201. They've got a future first that is intriguing, but they're probably not going to give up that easily. So let's see. They might not be interested in either guy, but let's go for it. So Jeffrey, 201, and the future second, which should be pretty early, and we'll add on Geo. So again, I think Geo is going to be a critical piece to maybe the player added here. Let's see. So we got a few more here. And going through Alshon Jeffrey. So again, Foreman was someone of interest. Giovanni Bernard. How about we go Foreman, who I think has some really good flip potential, and we'll go 201 and 301 this year. Give me some flexibility to kind of move around the board. And yeah, again, I think that's fair. It may be a little low in terms of what I would ultimately want out of the top piece, but Houston not adding a back of consequence is a little reaffirming for me that there's going to be a nice boost back window for Deonta Foreman, at least by during the season, if not once next offseason starts, independent of if they bring somebody in. But Lamar Miller, I think, is going to be. I've been saying it for a year or two, but I think Lamar Miller is finally running out of time with Houston, and they're gonna move on next offseason. So let's see. We did Foreman. We got Geo mixed in there. We got to do Eric Ebron as well. They've got Jimmy Graham. 201 straight up is probably fair, but I'll add 301 to 310. Little upgrade there for Ebron. And then I'll also do Ebron for the future second. Maybe I'll even do Ebron for the future second and third. So they technically get Ebron for free this year, if you will. Again, just give people different avenues. Second, and actually, well, let's do 301 this year just to get something in the game. So that's another trade for team Trust the Process. I didn't package them together. Let's see if there's something I can do that includes both of them. Aim high or higher than I have been. I haven't asked for their first round pick next year, so let's try to do that. Let's put both of them together. We'll do Ebron and Jeffrey. But what are we going to add? Because again, this has high possibilities. My late second, I still think, again, we're going 3 for 1. You might think that's aggressive. You might think it's super, super cheap, or something in between. But you got to throw it out there. They're getting 3 pieces for 1. And last team is up here. Let's see what their roster looks like. We're up to a great number of trades. Let's see. We've got Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Sonny Michel, big 3. They've got Edelman, Fitzgerald, Juju, Thielen, and then Joku as their main tight end. So I could see anything, either guy being in play for them. So Ebron, and this is a team that finished second last year. 211 and a likely late second next year feels light. Do they have any add-ons really? Maybe an Edelman type, but I'm sure they're thinking I'm contending and I'm going to be a strong one at that, based on their finish last year and their roster still. But let's see, 211 and a second. That's tough for me to identify there. Again, I think we're going after their first though. So Jeffrey, we'll go for Jeffrey for the first. That should be late, but again, I'll still take that and resetting the clock. So that's a big one for me. And let's see, we're getting the home stretch here. We'll go same team. All the scrolling, right? And then, so that was for Jeffrey for the first. Again, Ebron's not going to get the first, especially if it's not a huge upgrade, but we'll go second to first with Ebron. And Ebron, I said 211 in a second wasn't enough. Let's see if there's anyone else to add there. So at least I sent both of them out there, I think, in the proper price range. Ingram, not a big buyer on him. Edelman, maybe some stopgap potential. And actually, let's go Jeffrey to Edelman, see if I can get something added on. Let's go Jeffrey for Edelman and a second. And the thinking is this: Edelman, is he going to score equal to Jeffrey? And if I'm concerned that he's going to last, so if you get that proximity this year and then you get the second round pick and you'll figure it out, and Jeffrey's probably running on fumes in 12 to 24 months. And I haven't added them both together to get something. Can probably get so now that I've sent, for example, them both individually for firsts, let's see if I add them together for a first and then something else. They might think, just comparatively looking at all the deals, they might think that they're getting a much better deal. So putting those together for the first, and let's go 211. So again, now they're getting a little bit of a discount there by just by perception. So that's sending them all out. I don't know how many offers have been addressed so far, but as you can see, folks watching, just the scroll job. Look at this. I think 1 or 2 have already been declined, if memory serves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Chad counting 7, 12, 15, 20, 25. We hit 30, 35. So there you have it. I say quick. I won't call it a quick show, but we'll call it a show. So first time, if you did like this in terms of the live screen share, let me know. And if there's other topics that you think would be instructive, I will certainly consider them and put them on the to-do list going forward. I'll have the audio version as well if you've just been listening. But thanks so much for being a UTH subscriber. And until next time, never settle, refuse to be average, and keep building those dynasties.